Hi everybody. Hello Wampus. Hello Jam Jam. Hello Vi. Jam Jam, I love those emotes. Little Sonic and Dog outfit. Hello. Hi cats. Welcome in. Man, I have to say, it feels like it's been forever since I last streamed, even though that's not the case, but for some reason it just feels like an eternity has gone by. How is everyone? How's it going? You know, Wampus had D&D, and that's about it. What's everyone been up to? You have the flu. Oh no. Well, you know what tends to help with the flu? Chicken soup for the soul. It's on the menu today for what I'm gonna read. Reading a brownie? That's awesome. Honestly, those brownies looked so good. You had chicken soup yesterday? Good. You're getting it today, too. And pho today? Alright, that's good. That's actually really good. Today, I went to a mall today. It had been a long time since I had been really out anywhere, I'm not gonna lie. And after taking care of the return we had to do, we went to a little pop-up store. Hi, Soleil. Good to see you. Remember to take your vitamins too. True. Sickness is going around these days. What did I get? Well, after we did our return, we did stop by in Auntie Anne's and got some pretzel bites. But yeah, we ended up going to a little pop-up celebrating pretty much Mexico and the various facets of the culture, which was informative, very neat. I didn't share? I didn't. I shared with the person that I went with. And it was cool. And as we then made our way... Well, it turns out Vi is actually sick, Soleil, so thank goodness for that medicational bag. Medicinal. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But as I was leaving the mall, trying to find my way, passed by a Lunar New Year, like, lion dance that was just happening. That was cool. I really enjoyed the drum beats there. And we found a Hello Kitty cafe, which distracted me so badly I got lost. Normally I can find my way, but I'm just like, where am I? Where do we have to go? We're trapped. Want to see Lion Dance IRL? I'm sure if you go to like an actual festival, it'd be amazing. Seems like a very active day. Oh yeah, especially since after leaving the mall, we then got lost on the roads. Construction, traffic. Oh goodness, accidents too. It was never an easy trip back. That's a fun emote core. Also, hi. So, definitely a very active day, and I will admit I am tired. But then again, I've always been tired. That has stopped nothing in my life. So yeah, in order to bring in this new month of February and Sort of to get rid of the bad mojo that was all of January. I picked up a book. That book being Chicken Soup for the Soul. Think Positive. 101 inspirational stories about counting your blessings and having a positive attitude. Because I think that's kind of important. And plus, who doesn't love some positive affirmations? You also haven't been feeling well because your sister's been in the hospital for 10 days straight now. That is a good reason, honestly. That's terrifying. I'm sorry, Soleil. I hope they get out soon. I truly and honestly do. And from there, maybe we can read another one of the books that I have. We'll see. But we'll go ahead and begin with the foreword, which starts with, "Change your thoughts and you change your world," by Norman Vincent Peale. And often that is the case, where it is just changing your perspective will do so much for just how you see and interpret everything. Here's the rest of it. I can't remember how long it's been since I first heard those words. Change your thoughts and you change your world. It's a simple enough phrase, but wow. Those words are packed with power. They have been something of a lifelong mantra for me. Change your thoughts and you change your world. When times are rough, but I feel so frustrated by disappointments and not reaching my goals, I repeat those words in my head and make a conscious, almost physical effort to change course, recalibrate, and steer my little ship of self in a fresh, more positive direction. Thank you, Soleil. I hope you do too. The other day, I was speaking to a group of women in the financial industry, and one woman asked to what I credited my long television career. I had to think for a moment. I have been blessed in the television business. I started working at the CBS station in Atlanta when I was still in college and interviewed then President Jimmy Carter on live TV when I was only 19 years old. I don't know which is more exciting, interviewing the president or having ABC's White House correspondent Sam Donaldson ask me afterward what he said. You could have shot me on my tombstone would have read, "She died happy." Even when my career took some unexpected tough turns, I somehow managed to pull myself and my career back together, pick up the pieces, and start over. But what was the secret to my long and still successful career? As I pondered the question, I realized there were probably 3 qualities that I have worked in my favor. And the good news is, anyone can develop them. I have an extraordinary capacity for hard work, an insatiable curiosity, and a sometimes ridiculous ability to look on the bright side. All of us can work hard, put in a few more hours at work, and try a bit harder to master a challenge. Contrary to the old saying, curiosity didn't kill the cat or anyone else. Learning new things, exploring topics about which we know nothing, that's what gives life its zest. But finding the bright side? Well, how does one do that when you've lost a job, gotten a dire diagnosis, or seen your personal life shattered? For me, finding the silver lining in life's clouds was something of a coping mechanism. As a little girl, my mother battled chronic illness. I remembered when school was dismissed, I'd hear other kids see their moms' cars in the pickup line and complain their playground time was cut short because Mom is here already. I was thrilled when my family station wagon was among the cars. It meant Mama was having a good day. Later, when she died, I was 20 at the time, I was able to find in gratitude the knowledge that she was no longer in pain. When I started my television career before I graduated from the University of Georgia, I had to deal with plenty of naysayers. How would you respond to a woman who said to you, "You have no business being here and are taking away a job from someone who's qualified"? I will never forget that moment in front of the vending machines at Channel 5. I stammered out a reply along the lines of, "Well, the boss is giving me this chance, and I hope to prove him right." I also resolved to make the most of the opportunity as long as it lasted. Who knows? The boss might be persuaded the female reporter was right. Later, when my career was derailed, I discovered that while I couldn't control what happened in my life, I could control how I let it impact me. The Greek Epictetus said it quite elegantly. "Ask not that events should happen as you will, but let your will be that events should happen, and you will have peace." I must confess, I only made that discovery after wallowing in depression and self-pity for a time. It is not easy to do. How many times have you not gotten the job? Haven't you felt kicked in the teeth when denied opportunities? Been frustrated when someone not nearly qualified enough got the green light instead? Maybe health problems have rearranged your family's life. It just isn't fair. I know I felt that way. It isn't fair. But here's the thing. Don't take this out of context. I've given birth to 3 children, and at no point was there ever anyone in the delivery room looking at their newborn and saying, "Kid, from here on out, it's all fair." Life just doesn't work that way. Some people don't seem to be affected by that. Just as there are those who can walk through a field of poison ivy and never have the slightest discomfort, there are some people who can be hammered by all of life's negatives and still remain unscathed. I'm not one of them. Deny me entry to the club, and part of me wants to sob in the corner, wondering why I'm not good enough. But the bigger part of me has realized it's no fun going to a pity party. The better I get at resisting the temptation to give in to sorrow, frustration, or stress, the more successful I seem to be both personally and professionally. Was this real? Or was this something I was imagining? I've spent the last several years researching these kinds of values: gratitude, respect, resilience, and faith. What is it that makes some people more resilient? How are some people able to let the difficulties of life roll off them like water off a duck's back? Why do some people just seem stronger? The answer is in this book's title, Think Positive. Recent scientific studies have proven that a positive attitude actually has measurable benefits. Grateful, positive people report they have better lives and more positive memories. People who can recall positive events have been proven to be more resilient, even in the most difficult of situations. People who keep track of the good things in their lives are healthier, more active, more productive, and held in higher regard by those around them. There's peer-reviewed proof of this. What's more, people who are able to accentuate the positive are smarter, better able to make cognitive associations and connections. They solve problems faster and more correctly. Kids who summon up positive memories do better on tests. That's good to know. But how do you summon up positive memories when you're in a really tough spot. Plenty of people are right now. The collapse of financial markets wiped out jobs and life savings. Retirements have been postponed and homes foreclosed upon. Terror scares have changed the way we travel and the way we look at people from other countries. Change your thoughts and you change your world. Sounds pretty accurate, true. Let's face it, it isn't always easy. When things aren't going your way, those peppy little sayings, count your blessings instead of sheep, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, and if you see it, you can be it, are just plain annoying. Maybe they make a good needlepoint pillows for the family room couch, but somehow, when you're in the midst of a really difficult situation in life, trite sayings just don't help much. But this book will. This wonderful new volume of 101 inspirational stories, Chicken Soup for the Soul Think Positive, is filled with the experiences of real people living everyday lives with real problems. Yet, they've found the inner strength to overcome those challenges, or just ways to make their lives more meaningful. Their examples can help you find the keys to think positively, enhance your own life, and provide that little bit of motivation that will help you get over the speed bumps of life. In fact, the Tale of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series is a great example of thinking positively. I fell in love with the series when it debuted years ago, but I love the story of how it came into existence even more. I cite it often in speeches as a great example of perseverance. Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen were convinced their little collection of inspirational stories had the power to make a meaningful difference in the lives of readers. Trouble was, they couldn't find a publisher who agreed with them. They took their book to publishing conferences, and literally hundreds of publishers ignored them. Finally, they found a small publisher who would print a few thousand books for them, and they started selling Chicken Soup for the Soul from the backs of their cars as they drove around, making speeches and doing book signings. Eventually, the book, that wonderful little engine that could, turned into a worldwide bestseller, and Chicken Soup for the Soul became a publishing phenomenon, one of the most successful lines of books in history. Just gotta believe. Like JB, the foster kid in the movie Angels in the Outfield, every night the little boy went to bed with the hope that tomorrow would be the day he found a family. It could happen, JB would say as he snuggled under the covers. In true Hollywood form, the movie ends with JB being adopted by the baseball coach George Knox, played by Danny Glover. JB never gave up hoping that it could happen. This is calling making you sleep? Oh, good. You need rest, especially after everything, so take it as you can. JB never gave up hoping that it could happen. The founders of Chicken Soup for the Soul never gave up on their dream of changing lives through inspiring stories. George Patton said, "Courage is fear hanging on 1 second longer." I like to paraphrase General Patton by saying, "Success is failure, trying one more time." Most of us don't succeed because we give up too soon. Did you know the average customer has to be pitched 5 to 7 times before he will make a purchase? The average salesman gives up after 2 or 3 attempts. Want to read the ultimate tale of persistence? Pull up your kids' copy of Green Eggs and Ham. Count up how many times Sam I Am offers up that plate of green eggs and ham. 16 tries. As we all know, when he finally gave it a taste, he liked it after all. It could happen for you too. You just gotta believe. The stories that follow will help you summon up that extra bit of energy and positive attitude that you need to help reach your potential. They already have for me. Change your thoughts, and you change your world. I didn't know until I did a computer search that those were the words of Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. Did you know that he too suffered from self-doubt? After his manuscript for The Power of Positive Thinking was rejected for the upteenth time, he tossed it in a wastebasket where it was retrieved by his wife Ruth. It went on to publish 20 million copies in 42 languages. Ruth Peale, who died in 2008, was quoted of saying of her husband, "I don't have as much self-doubt as he did." You'll love James Scott Bell's story of how the now best-selling author first met the father of positive thinking. Bell tells how meeting Norman Vincent Peale influenced his life and helped him get through the anxiety of being a lawyer turned author. Got a dream you want to pursue, but afraid to give it a shot? Yeah. Just do it. When unemployment hit both her and her husband, Debbie Acklin was terrified to start a new business, but circumstance had backed her into a corner. Starting from scratch, she made up flyers advertising computer training, rented out a space, and fielded enough clients to launch a successful new business. Her example has me strategizing how I can extend my own fledgling yarn business into something more. Health issues are something every family must confront, but it's not always easy to see the blessing in such unfair adversity. My cousin Dan has fought a long, painful, and incredibly brave battle against multiple sclerosis. His repeated hospitalizations have cheated him of many of the experiences a young man in his 20s should get to enjoy. But it hasn't robbed him of his ability to make a positive difference in the lives of others. His most recent hospital stay was a tough one, prompting friends, many of whom now live far away, to visit and share reminiscences of Danny's impact on their lives. The mom of one friend recalled how even during sleepovers, Danny would always say his prayers before going to bed. What a blessing for his family to know their son's sheer goodness was apparent to all. The chapter Health Challenges is filled with similar stories in which unforeseen medical misfortunes changed lives, but also offered opportunities. People like Sean Decker, a hemophiliac who contracted HIV from a childhood blood transfusion. Instead of turning bitter, Sean is upbeat and grateful for life. Now a leader in the HIV community, he's coined the term positoid for people in his situation. Sometimes the magic is in the moment. Surveys show us that 9 out of 10 of us say we are extremely pressed for time. And the other 10% were too busy to talk to the pollster, I bet. The stories in the Everyday is Special chapter remind us that sometimes there's nothing better than an average, mundane day. Elaine Bridge used to treat herself to a special coffee on Fridays and always had an upbeat attitude on those days. Then she realized she could have that fancy coffee and that positive attitude any day of the week. Why not make every day a special day? Heather Gallegos had gone. You cherish mundane days so much. Me too, honestly. Sometimes it's just nice to just have nothing really going on. Just have a day. May we all live in interesting times. What can we do? Heather Gallegos had gone to the local track a bit reluctantly for her morning run when she was confronted with an incident that underscored how an ordinary day can turn out to be anything but. When a man collapsed on the track in front of her, she administered CPR compressions for 11 minutes until paramedics arrived. As she put it, it was enough time to save his life, enough time to change mine. They say God never gives you more than you can handle, but you have to marvel at the strength and resilience of the people who share their stories in the chapter called Role Models and Overcoming Adversity. Are you living the life you were meant to live, or does something feel not quite right? Shannon Kaiser was a young woman who seemed to have it all, except she didn't feel that way. In the Moving Forward chapter, she describes how she dissected every aspect of her life and really honed in on what she felt would give her the meaning it lacked. You'll be stunned at just how incredibly fate intervened and helped her reach her goals. You all know the emphasis I put on gratitude and giving thanks. Jane McBride's short story on how a gratitude journal helped when her husband's business hit on hard times will probably encourage many of you to try the technique. As I've written in my own books, weaving gratitude into our daily lives empowers us to lead happier, more productive lives. This powerful book ends with a chapter on gratitude, with inspiring examples of how the power of thank you can make an incredible impact. As you read along, dog-ear the stories that particularly resonate for you. You'll want to refer back to them on those days when you're feeling like life is getting the better of you. I also suggest you keep a pencil and paper handy to jot down the questions you might find yourself asking of you. Each of these 101 stories has a lesson of unique benefit. What you take from the stories might be different from what I learn, or what a friend might discover from the story. As you go through the book, you'll begin to see a pattern to your scribbles. The questions you write and the answers you offer to them can provide a template to help you live your own life more authentically and more fully. Are you living the way you feel you are meant to? What are the benefits that come from your own adversities? What blessings have happened this day, this week? Who serves as a role model for you? Have you told them? How can you celebrate the mundane and the ordinary? What is your life? What is it your life lacks, and would it give it a greater meaning? Hi, Felix. Good to see you again, too. Sounds good, though. Enjoy lurking, and hope to have you here again when you pop back in. Share this book with family and friends. Give a copy to someone who needs a boost. When you need a reminder that life is filled with blessings, benefits, opportunities, and joy, return to this book. You'll find you're looking ahead with grateful, positive, happy eyes that recognize all the good in your life now and to come. I'm just positive of it. By Deborah Norville. Take care, Soleil. Have a good day at school. What an intro. And that's just the foreword. Man, there's going to be a lot here. I don't know how long these stories are, actually. But Chapter 1 begins with Think positive. Words that changed my life. Words have the power to both destroy and heal. When words are both true and kind, they can change our world. Buddha. The day I met Norman Vincent Peale, 4 things were success: work and pray, think and believe. Fear, feel, think. By Norman Vincent Peale. Why are things so bad now? Cindy, my wife of 28 years, said. Why does it have to be so hard? I didn't have an answer, because I felt exactly the same way. We were sitting in our family room that morning, sipping our coffee. Cindy had just suffered a major setback in her real estate work. Another agent had done something unethical, cutting her out of a commission she'd earned. It looked like things were heading toward litigation, with all the attendant stress. And I, a writer of thrillers, was facing the biggest hurdle of my career, a jump to a new market that was anything but guaranteed. So, we sat there for a moment in silence, and then this popped out of my mouth. We have to be more Norman Vincent Peale-ish. I hadn't mentioned his name in a while, but now it seemed exactly right, because once, some 30 years before, his words delivered me from a very dark time in my life. I was acting then, living in Hollywood, working sporadically, auditioning, going through the rounds. If there's any profession that is full of defeats, it's acting. Rejection is your constant companion. Doubt, your chatty next-door neighbor. One dismal summer day in 1979, I was standing on the corner of Hollywood and Vine. I'd just come from an audition and was heading back to my apartment. I paused on the most famous crossroads in Hollywood as a bus drove by and spewed a stream of black exhaust my way. A wave of despair washed over me. What was the point of all this? Like in the old Peggy Lee song, I wondered, is that all there is? And, Core, we are reading Chicken Soup for the Soul. Think positive. So it's a collection of people's stories that have been put in a book to a theme of thinking positively, even despite the adversity. Yeah. Feeling more than a little desperate, I walked down to Pickwick Bookshop on Hollywood Boulevard. I went to the religious section, thinking maybe what I needed was a recovery of my faith. Yeah, it's a long-running series of books, actually, Core. I don't know how many. Research time. Chicken Soup for the Soul. See all our books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I scrolled down. Oh yeah, it's a series. And there's 12 books on this page. And then there's 19 pages. And that's just from the 2008 to present. It started in 1993. Which also has 10 pages of 12. That's a lot. You were were a kid, you had chicken soup for the preteen soul. All the stories made you sad. Oh no. I know we had chicken soup for the soul here in my house. That sounds short, not gonna lie. Alright, let me pull out the calculator. In fact, why isn't there something on Wikipedia? Wikipedia. Chicken soup for the soul. Give me a total book number. That's not giving me a number. How many chicken soup for the soul books are there? Someone searched it before. The Chicken Soup for the Soul book series has over 275 titles. That's a lot. Alright, let's get back into it. After high school, I'd gone on to college. It wasn't long before I was into many of the things I'd heard happen at party schools. Sundays were not for church, but sitting at a beach drinking beer. It's okay, Cor. And thank you, Jam Jam. I'm sure it'll be delicious. Now, 3 years removed from graduation, I was hoping that I could find in a book some relief from the darkness I felt crushing my spirit. As I scanned the titles, I saw the name Norman Vincent Peale featured prominently. I'd seen the movie One Man's Way, a biopic about Dr. Peale. Well, I reasoned, they made a movie about the guy. He must have something going on. So I bought The Power of Positive Thinking, went back to my apartment, and started to read. I followed the steps Dr. Peale laid out at the end of each chapter. Some months later, I moved to New York to study acting and work in the theater. I found lodging at a rooming house on West 23rd Street, took a job as a temporary typist, volunteered to move scenery at an off-Broadway theater, and generally fell into the pattern of the city, which meant a lot of hurrying around and more than a little urban anxiety. At some point, I remembered that Dr. Norman Vincent Peale had been a preacher in New York at Marble Collegiate Church. I wondered if he was still alive. This was in the days before the internet and Google. I looked up the church's address in a phone book and went by to inquire about Dr. Peale. They told me he was not only still alive, but preaching every Sunday at nearly 82 years of age. The next Sunday, I was there. It was March 9th, 1980. I was in the balcony as Dr. Peale delivered his sermon entitled, "You Can Win Over All Defeats." I remember being struck by how deep and resonant and expressive his voice was, especially when he said, "There's an invulnerability that flows out of faith." I love that word, invulnerability, and undefeatable. That's what you are. You think I'm building you up too much? I do it on the basis of the Bible that says, "This is the victory that overcometh the world." That means anything in the world. And littlest Chad, thank you for following. Welcome in. Hope you're having a great night. 12sa, hi. Welcome in as well. And I'm hoping for the same thing. That everyone here is having a nice, good time. I purchased a tape of the sermon. I still have it. On the label is a note I scribbled in ink. The day I met him. I'm so pretty. Thank you. It means a lot. After the sermon, I'd gone to his office hoping I could shake his hand. My secretary said if I'd wait, Dr. Peel would be happy to meet me. I could hear his dynamic voice booming as he spoke to someone on the phone. Presently, Dr. Peel marched out with a smile as his secretary brought him over to me. I introduced myself, and he pumped my hand. "Well, I am certainly glad to meet you," he said. We conversed for a few minutes. He asked me about my interests and work. It struck me that Dr. Peel was the living proof of the value of his philosophy. He had the energy and enthusiasm of a man half his age. When he spoke, he looked me in the eye, and for that moment, I felt like he was treating me as the most important person in the world. Life took its twists and turns. I got married, moved back to Los Angeles, went to law school, started raising a family. I also began to write. Through those years, I'd occasionally reread Dr. Peel's books and remember fondly his voice resonating from the pulpit. Now Cindy and I were in this long period of challenge. During those weeks and months, we would constantly remind each other to stay peelish. It wasn't always easy to be positive, but being peelish got us through many a dark day. And then, our prayers were answered. After many weeks of uncertainty, Cindy's controversy was settled with a simple conference call. She received just and fair compensation, and the prospect of protracted litigation lifted off her shoulders. My waiting stretched into months, and more months. The publishing industry was going through a challenging time. No one in the business seemed to know how it was all going to shake out. Welcome into the lovely, relaxing vibes, yeah. It took a lot of reminding for me to stay peelish during this time. The day finally came when my agent called with the good news. The multiple book contract I'd been waiting for had come through, and it was everything I'd hoped for. After Cindy and I celebrated with a little jig around the family room, it struck me how crucially important that day was years ago when I walked into Pickwick Bookshop and found Dr. Peel's book. Also the day I met him and heard him speak. Whenever I need them, his words are right there waiting for me. Invulnerability and undefeatable. That's what you are. James Scott Bell. That was nice. What a story to start off on, huh? Is it funny, though, that the word undefeatable has been forever changed to me because of a little game called Sonic Frontiers? Listen, I'm just hanging on to the other side. Sorry, I'm dumb. We all know that. You know what? I'm great. Alright. Well, now that we've had one positive thinking story, I suppose we can move back on to a plain old book. We again have campfire cooking, which we're in the middle of, and the Odyssey, which is at the beginning of a new chapter. I'll flip a coin. Coin flip. No more good vibes, time for mess. Oh, it's always good vibes here, you know that. Alright. So, the light novel will be heads, Zero, and tails will be the Odyssey. My voice is so good, thank you. I appreciate that. Alright, here comes, you know what, we'll do a best 2 out of 3, just to really seal it in stone. First flipped is heads, 1 for the light novel. We flip again. The coin flips and turns, and as it was best 2 out of 3, it landed on heads again. It appears that campfire cooking in another world with my absurd skill has won outright. It's okay, we'll still read some later, Cham Cham. Started earlier today, after all. Just means you gotta stay to listen in. Alright, so being that we're starting in the middle of the chapter, let me go ahead and recap for people that may not know what's going on in the middle of the light novel chapter. So, this series itself follows a man named Ukoda who accidentally got summoned into another world, and turns out his special secret power that he got is Amazon shopping. At first, it sounds ridiculous, like what kind of power is that? But turns out, when you can purchase everything you need, and it uses the in-world currency that you're at, able to get nice, high-quality, purified stuff after countless years of revolutionizing that we've had in our world at your fingertips. Yeah, that's a pretty cool power. And turns out, with the power of cooking, working restaurant jobs and whatnot, he managed to attract and form a contract with a legendary beast, Fenrir, who he then named Fel. And that basically catches you up to where we are now. Literally, the contract has just been made. So, here we go. Do I like ASMR? Every now and then. I think it depends for me. But that is just me. And I know that many other people like to have triggers happen. Maybe hearing some keys. Maybe going into an ear. Maybe the other. Sometimes I do things like that. Rarely. But I can. From then on, Fel the Fenrir became one of our traveling companions, and we had made enough progress to be arriving at Venan soon. I was in the middle, Rita was in front, Vincent was to my right, and Ramon to my left, and behind me and to the right and left were Franca and Werner respectively. Added to that usual formation, Fel followed us slowly. What the frick? What do you mean, Cor? Werner sighed, while making a thoughtful face. What's wrong, Werner? Well, we're almost at the border, so I was just wondering what to do. What does he mean? No, Makoto. Like this, they'll definitely stop us. Vincent glanced furtively behind us as he said that. Ah, because Fel's with us, I realized. The border guards will come crawling out of the woodwork. Although, I think they'll withdraw once they realize we don't mean any harm. Werner, even before the question of if they'll withdraw or not, the entirety of their army is still no match for Fenrir. Well, what Ramon says is true. Do I know who? I do not. Huh? Is that fairy tale of a Fenrir destroying an entire country something that actually happened? Rita, that's not a fairy tale. It's a historical fact. Have my ears gone bad? You're talking some nonsense about destroying a country. That's a joke, right? I couldn't accept what I had just heard. Even if they acknowledge when it's contracted, there's no doubt that the entire country will move this time, Warner said while looking at me. Huh? Me? What now? There's just no way that the country will leave you alone now that you've contracted with a Fenrir, Makoto. As long as they capture you, Fenrir will definitely follow after all. Huh? Ramon, is that true? I couldn't help my shock. It would be extremely troublesome to have a country stepping into my business. Do I know how to speak Brazilian? Because you're Brazilian? Ah, that's cool. Brazilian, no. While I do know Spanish, it is Guatemalan Spanish, which tends to work in most Central American countries and everywhere, but I think Brazilian is definitely much different. There's no need to worry. If they mean any harm to either of us, all I have to do is fight them. Contract Fenrir just to scratch its belly. That'd be fun. No, that'd be bad. If the great Fenrir Ferrell were to get serious, the entire country would disappear. If they mess with us, they deserve to disappear. No, Fel. Isn't that a little too violent? If they do not want that to happen, all they have to do is leave us alone. It is a very simple thing. After Fel made his point, the members of Iron Will could only stare, open-mouthed. More importantly, is it not almost time for food? Fel's words marked the start of lunch. Enjoy your lurk core. Red boar meat that the members of Iron Will hunted was in trouble. No matter how much they say it was okay to use, there had to be a limit. Including Fel's portion of boar yesterday, the meat I served him this morning because he kept going on and on about meat. He'd already gone through quite the amount. He just had lunch perfect. Hey, I request meat. Of course you'd want meat for lunch too. The red boar meat isn't mine, so if you want to eat meat that badly, go hunt some yourself. Is that so? I will get some meat right away, so wait a while. Having said so, Belle ran off into the forest beside the road. Makoto, it's okay if you want to use all the red boar meat. No, there's no way I can take advantage of you like that. If we let him, Fel really will eat all of the boar that everyone took so much trouble hunting. Also, we can't just coddle him like that. If he plans to travel with me from now on, he should at least take responsibility for the cost of his own food. I mean, I can't hunt, and if he wants to eat meat like this every time, I can't very well buy it, can I? If I tried that, I'd go bankrupt right away. If he's really a legendary magic beast, then he should at least be able to hunt his own food, I thought. Very cool, thank you. Usually, whenever I start around 7 or 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. What time is that in Brazil, actually? What time zone is Brazil? GMT -3. This is Brazil time. So, looks like you are 5 hours ahead. Wow. That's rough. Usually I start around this time though when it comes to my streams. And I usually go on for 2 hours. Sometimes I might start earlier, just so we can do some more with my limited time. But yeah, look forward to seeing you here more often. Worth it to go bankrupt? To think there would be a person that could tell a Fenrir what to do. Take care, Twelfsa. You have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Even if you say that, it might feel amazing when you say that Fenrirs are legendary magic beasts, but if this guy fell, he was lured into a contract by food. To be lured in by food, honestly, that's something I can only think an idiot would do. It's scary though, so I wouldn't tell Fel that. While I was thinking that, Fel came back with a huge bird in his mouth. It's a rock bird. The members of Iron Will stared at Fel with the bird in his mouth with blank faces. By rock bird, do you mean the bird that Fel hunted? Yeah, it's a B-rank monster. It's about strong enough that even if we fought with all our strength, we might not win. Hey, you hunted something that dangerous? I have caught something. Quickly, make me something to eat. No, I mean, even if you tell me to make food, if you just plop a huge bird down in front of me. I didn't know how to butcher animals. There was no choice but to ask for help here. Fel, you know I don't know how to butcher this. I have no choice but to ask these people for help, but is it okay to pay them with the non-meat materials from this rock bird? As long as I am able to eat meat, I have no problems with this. Now that that's settled, can I ask you guys to dismantle this? Just like that, I asked them, but the members of Iron Will all shook their heads saying, No, it's too much to take all the materials just for dismantling a rock bird. I mean, even if you tell me that, I thought, I really just don't want to pay for this guy's food bill out of my own pocket. No. Thanks to Fel, what's left of the red boar meat has decreased drastically, and Fel himself is okay with it, so please, take it. He kept saying it's too much right until the end, but I somehow managed to convince them. It's something Fel hunted, so it's free after all. Also, it seemed like there would be trouble entering Venan like this, so collecting favors now should help me out in the long run. With that settled, the rock bird was cleanly dismantled by Iron Will. So, thinking that for a bird, this would be just right, I used the teriyaki sauce that I bought with my skill and decided to make rock bird teriyaki. First, cook both sides of the rock bird well. Normally it would be better to use kitchen paper to wipe up the extra fat, but this was a different world and we were camping, so I just dumped it over to the side. Now, add the teriyaki sauce. When the sauce starts to simmer, mix it well with the rock bird meat, and there, teriyaki rock bird is finished. For today, I decided to make the freeze-dried onion soup. This one had a lot more stuff in it too. Also, just having instant consomme soup all the time would be boring. I served the finished meal to the members of Iron Will first. Hey, where's my share? You eat a lot, Fel, so I'm serving everyone else first. I'll make it right away, so wait a bit. I see. From there, I cooked my heart out, making teriyaki rockbird. Fel seemed to really take to the teriyaki rockbird, so the entire bird outside of our portion ended up being eaten by him. Rockbird teriyaki was good, and I quite liked it, but next time, I'd like to eat it in a calmer environment and really savor it. We'd come far enough to say that Venan was right in front of our eyes. From here, we could see the fort on the country's border. The soldiers inside seemed to be coming out in force. It really did come down to this, huh? I looked over at Fel, who was following behind us slowly, and I sighed. It seems like there's a lot of soldiers coming out, doesn't it? Fel is with us after all. I'll go ahead and explain the situation. Having said that, Werner ran towards the fort ahead of us. Sorry for the trouble, I apologized in my heart. Reaching the fortress, we found Werner and the border guard soldiers lined up, waiting for us. I am Edgar Woolgard, captain of the Kingdom of Venan's 4th Night Brigade. I've heard the situation from Werner here. Is it true that you have formed a contract with that Fenrir there? The guard captain seemed to have had the highest title there, even had a last name, so he might have been a noble. He asked me with such tense air about him that I thought I could see it. This is because Fel's here, isn't it? I thought. The other guards still have their weapons in hand, so they can react to anything, too. I guess even a rotten legendary beast is still legendary, or something, I mused. Yes, I formed a contract with this Fenrir. When I said that, the guards all let out a ooh. I see. But still, it's a Fenrir, a beast that's been said to have destroyed a country. Will it really not harm this country or its citizens? For a person entrusted with guarding the border, I guess that concern would have been pretty appropriate. Hey, Fel, these people here are worried about letting you, whose strength is legendary, into the country. They'll be in trouble if you go wild in their country, after all. You definitely won't do anything like that, right? Do not lump me in with those dumb as rock monsters. As long as they do not lay a hand on you, who is my master, or I will do nothing of the sort. Makes you hungry? Very fair, Jam Jam. There you have it, Captain. He was making a face, shocked at the exchange between Fel and I. You really did contract with the legendary magic beast. Even though it's right in front of my eyes, I still don't really believe it. That's right, Captain, I complained in my heart. I was forced to contract with him while I still wasn't really sure what was going on. From your conversation just now, it seems like the story of your contract is true. If that is the case, I'll allow you in. However, make sure you hold the reins on your Fenrir tightly, please. Yes, I understand. Hey, Fel, I'm begging you here, so please behave, okay? I understand already. Just as I have said earlier, as long as they do not lay a hand on us, there will be no trouble from my end. I'm really begging you here. If something happens, it'll be my fault. You're being awfully persistent. Well, I just wanted to really make sure you get it. Oh, if you end up doing something that causes trouble for everyone, I can just take away meals. I've somehow made it through the border, so I really need to make sure he got in. If something were to happen, I'd be the one in trouble after all. I see. If you've tamed that Fenrir to this degree, it seems like the worst won't come to happen, the captain said, looking slightly relieved. Captain, I'm pretty sure the worst will never happen. We were there when Makoto formed his contract with Fel, and we also traveled together the rest of the way here. In all that time, Fel hasn't flown off the handle once. Hello, Delilah. Welcome in. It's just as our leader says. Fel went and hunted monsters at Makoto's instruction, too. I was super surprised. Rita? I was surprised, too. When I told him to go get his own meat, I meant that he should take responsibility for the cost of his own food, so I sent him hunting. I didn't have him hunt for my profit, so please don't get that wrong, okay? Whoa, so you've really got a firm control over him. Wait a minute, Captain, what do you mean by whoa? You know, you look like you're planning something bad by putting your hand to your chin like that. Please stop. I don't want any trouble. Well, after this and that, we somehow managed to get permission to cross the border, and so had made it safely into the kingdom of Venan. By the way, since I didn't have a guild card, I was made to pay a tax of 5 silver coins. There was also a tax to let Fel in too, so that added an extra 2 silver coins onto the fee. The fact that Fel cost money too kind of hurt me in my wallet. I need to hurry up and get into the Merchant's Guild. And the chapter takes a break right there, and will continue momentarily. For now, though, I am going to take a small break. Gonna drink some water, stretch a little bit, and I suggest that you all do the same. I'll be back in a little bit. See you then. Should you all get up, maybe? Perhaps get some water? Maybe even... I don't know. Just things to take care of yourself tonight. Hope so. Because it's now time to bundle yourself back up. Because the book stories continue. For those of you that weren't with us though, I'm currently in the middle of a light novel titled Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill. It's been pretty fun so far. Alright, here we go. Entering the kingdom of Venan, our first destination was the border town, Valiers. I'm so relieved I managed to get in. Thanks, everyone. In the first place, it would have been impossible to travel alone in this world full of monsters, so I was really thankful to everyone from Iron Will. And with Vel's situation, I wouldn't have even been able to get into the country without their help either. Not at all. We were able to experience something good too. Even got to see the legendary beast Fenrir, and even talk to him too. As our leader says, I'll be bragging to everyone about this. I'll be bragging about this too, same as Vincent. Like, hey, I got to meet a Fenrir from those fairy tales, you know? Rita, you're such a child. But it's true. This is something one would want to brag about. To see a Fenrir in our lifetimes, this might just dry up all our luck as adventurers. I guess Fel's existence was just that impactful to everyone else. But Makoto, life is probably gonna get real busy from here on out. Werner, what do you mean by busy? Because there's no way they haven't already told the Margrave that rules this area, and probably even the king, that a Fenrir and its master have been let into the country. That would happen, wouldn't it? Not to mention that captain, who was obviously plotting ways to get you to serve the country after seeing the relationship between you and Fel. The captain. He really was up to no good. Even if you tell me that, I don't plan on staying in this country forever anyway. So when that time comes, I'll just have to think about it while consulting with Vel. That's right. As long as this great Fel is with you, they won't be able to do anything reckless. I was relying solely on Fel, but there was no way around it. Even I'd like to go around and see the world, since I'd already been summoned here anyways. I started to feel like it'd be nice to use this trip to travel the world while I profited with my online supermarket. Traveling in another world seemed like it'd be full of adventure after all. By not staying in this country, you mean you plan to travel? He nodded at Werner's question. I started feeling like I should go see the world, you know? I see. If that's the case, you should register at the Adventurers Guild, Makoto. Huh? The Adventurers Guild? I thought. I don't want to become an adventurer, though. The Adventurers Guild, you say? Personally, I plan to join the Merchants Guild. I can cook, so I was planning to travel and set up stalls at towns I stop at to earn money or sell commodities wholesale because I have some connections. Is that so? But still, Werner looked at Fel while making a thoughtful face. Goda, you're planning on having Fel hunt for his own field food from here on, aren't you? I nodded. Of course that was the case. If so, how are you planning on butchering what he hunts? Ah, that's right. Also, taking the rockbird into consideration, what Fella hunts will probably be all high-ranking monsters. If so, then having the Adventurers Guild buy off their other usable parts would be perfect, you see. Certainly. Hey, Aiden B. Cyber. Welcome in. You sure are new. Hope you're having a wonderful night, and... Hey, welcome in. Certainly. If they'll buy that stuff, then having them do it would only help my travels from here on. Being an adventurer? You look like you're really having trouble with this, Mukoda, so why don't you just register at both? This was said by Vincent, who was eavesdropping on the conversation between Werner and I. I mean, I could do that, but would that be okay? Well, there's not a lot of them, but there are people that are registered to both guilds. Oh, is that so? If that's the case, I'll go for both then. Thus, I decided to register at both guilds. We reached the goal of our journey, the border town, Valliers. It seemed that they were already informed of our presence when we passed through the border fort, because when we arrived, Belle was let in without too much trouble. It wasn't as much as when entering the country, but to get into the city, I had to pay taxes again. 2 silver for me and 1 for Fell, and it hurt me a little to do so. Passing through the gate, I found an envoy from Margrave Lindell waiting for me, just like Werner had said there would be. Sir Mukoda, am I correct? I am a servant of Margrave Lindell, Edmund. It is a pleasure to meet you. To tell you the truth, Margrave Lindell would love to meet you, Sir Mukoda, and has sent me to invite you. I see, it's finally here. A forceful invitation event. However, I didn't want to meet him. I didn't plan to stay in this country for long after all. Let's refuse him politely here, I decided. No. A mere traveler such as I would never dream of meeting with Margrave Lindell. Oh, no. Margrave Lindell insists. No. I should say, no. It is I who should say, please, come with me. While Edmund and I were attempting to push each other around with words, Val came over. Hey, you. Do you not understand that my master is refusing to meet yours? So, this is the great Fenrir. Sir Fenrir, please, come along as well. Edmund managed to say that through a straight face, strained with fright at Fel's sudden appearance. How crafty you must think you must be. I do not wish to meet the Margrave either. He is simply after mine power now. There were such foolish humans in the past as well. No, there's no way. Do not lie to me. Would you like to find out what happened to those foolish humans who thought to use mind power? Edmund finally cracked when Fel bared his teeth and ran away, screaming. Fel, that was too much. Those kinds of idiots do not learn unless you do it like this. Right, is that so? Is it okay to treat Margrave Lindell's envoy like that? Nobles are very protective about their reputation, so I might try something. Werner's worry was entirely warranted. I didn't think Fel would go that far either. There is no need to worry. If they try something, all we have to do is face it head on. Wow. Well, I'll be counting on you, fellow buddy. Well, with Fel with you, it'll probably be fine. When Werner said that, the other members of Iron Will nodded in agreement. Actually, I think the only thing that could rival Fel would be something like an ancient dragon, no? Ah, there it is. The fantasy mainstay. Dragons. So they really do exist. I don't want to see one at all, though. An ancient dragon. Truly that one is probably the only one who can fight evenly with me. Hi, Luxie. Good to see you. Welcome in. How have you been? Huh? Fel, have you fought with an ancient dragon before? Vincent latched onto that statement, excited. Around 400 years ago, yes. That time was a draw, but I will not lose next time. A battle between legendary beasts. I would have wanted to see that. Same here. Vincent and Rita seemed to be fired up, and Frank and Ramon were showing wry smiles while watching them. Hey. Still pretty restless? I was trying to finally fix your belly? Hopefully you mean in like a food way, right? Like eating something? Or do you mean in like an exercise way? Or do you mean in like a medical way? What? I hope you're resting easy. You have a burn mark with a leathery texture? Ooh. Oh. Since very young, that makes sense. That happens. I remember when I was very young, I had to give myself a terrible 3rd-degree burn on my finger. I was playing around with my toys in my room when my brother and sister were messing around with physics. And so they picked up my little tiger beanie baby and they launched it into the air, where it then landed on the lamp that had been on all day. It hurt a lot. We always do skin treatment, but it doesn't seem to fix the leathery texture. That's interesting. Do you know what's causing it? Interesting. Hey, calm down, everyone. We're going to report this to the Adventurers Guild as soon as we get Makoto's signature, but the quest is completed. Got it? I signed the quest complete report when Werner asked. It was made with boiling water, family issues. Ah. I'm sorry. Well, I hope that somehow it can get fixed. In the future. Maybe skin grafting? But I'm sure you've already thought about that. At least it didn't ruin your caramel bar. Well, that's good at least. When I tried to return the red boar meat, I was refused. They said that it couldn't pay for the rockbird meat they'd eaten, but I should have it anyways. I really have been treated well by you guys, especially after taking all the red boar meat. Thank you all very much. I never would have made it this far without the members of Iron Will. Not at all. We got to have a good time too. We even got great food out of it. So overall, it's been a good quest, no doubt. I was gratified when they said that. Really, thank you all very much. Well then, farewell. You too, Makoto. The members of Iron Will left, hands waving. Okay, so I've accomplished my current goal, but what should I do from now on? I started pondering my current situation. I don't plan to stay in this country long, but for now I should register to the guilds here, I guess. I should register for the Adventurers Guild as well, as Warner suggested, but right now, I want to go to the Merchants Guild, my original plan first. Hey, Fel, we're going to the Merchants Guild. Are you going to become a merchant? At the very least, I hope to do so. But I also plan to register at the Adventurers Guild. I want you to hunt for your own meat from now on, but I can't butcher the monsters myself. Also, we could use the funds from me selling the other materials from the monsters you hunt at the guild. It's okay, right? If I sell the other parts? Those are not things I need, so I do not mind. More than that, I want to eat tasty meals. Yeah, I get it. Man, I couldn't help but think, this guy, rather than a legendary beast, is just a gluttonous snack hound. Hilariously, that chapter's still not done, but I think we'll go ahead and pause it there and move on to the other book we still have on the docket, and that, of course, is the Odyssey, a legendary epic from Homer himself. On book 8. We're about 28% of the way done. We're gonna be at this for a while. Book 8. Banquet in the House of Alcinow. The Games. Now, when the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn appeared, Alcinow and Ulysses both rose, and Alcinow led the way to the Phaeacian place of assembly, which was near the ships. When they got there, they sat down side by side on a seat of polished stone, while Minerva took the form of one of Alcinow's servants and went round the town in order to help Ulysses get home. She went up to the citizens man by man and said, "Aldermen and the town councillors of the Phaeacians, come to the assembly, all of you, and listen to the stranger who has just come off a long voyage to the house of King Alcinow. He looks like an immortal god." With these words, she made them all want to come, and they flocked to the assembly till seats and standing room were alike crowded. Everyone was struck with the appearance of Ulysses, for Minerva had beautified him about the head and shoulders, making him look taller and stouter than he really was, that he might impress the Phaeacians favorably, as being a very remarkable man, and might come off well in the many trials of skill to which they would challenge him. Then, when they were got together, Alcinow spoke. "Hear me," said he, "aldermen and town councillors of the Phaeacians, that I may speak even as I am minded. This stranger, whoever he may be, has found his way to my house from somewhere or other, either east or west. He wants an escort and wishes to have the matter settled. Let us then get one ready for him, as we have done for others before him. Indeed, no one who ever yet came to my house has been able to complain of me for not speeding on his way soon enough. Let us draw a ship into the sea, one that has never yet made a voyage, and man her with 52 of our smartest young sailors. Then, when you have made fast your oars each by his own seat, leave the ship and come to my house to prepare a feast. I will find you in everything. I'm giving these instructions to the young men who will form the crew, for as regards you aldermen and town councilors, you will join me in entertaining our guest in the cloisters. I can take no excuses. We will have Demodocus to sing for us, for there is no bard like him whatever he may choose to sing about. Elsino then led the way, and the others followed after, while a servant went to fetch Demodocus. The 52 picked oarsmen went to the seashore as they had been told, and when they got there, they drew the ship into the water, got her mast and sails inside her, bound the oars to the thole pins with twisted thongs of leather, all in due course, and spread the white sails aloft. They moored the vessel a little way out from land, and then came on shore and went to the house of King Elsino. The outhouses, yards, and all the precincts were filled with crowds of men in great multitudes, both old and young, and Elsino killed them 12 sheep, 8 full-grown pigs, and 2 oxen. These they skinned and dressed so as to provide a magnificent banquet. A servant presently led them in the famous bard Demodocus, whom the muse had dearly loved, but to whom she had given both good and evil, for though she had endowed him with the divine gift of song, she had robbed him of his eyesight. Antino set a seat for him among the guests, leaning it up against the bearing post. He hung the lyre for him on a peg over his head, showed him where he was to feel it with his hands. He also set a fair table with a basket of victuals by his side, and a cup of wine from which he might drink whenever he was so disposed. The company then laid their hands upon the good things that were before them, but as soon as they had had enough to eat and drink, the muse inspired Demodocus to sing the feats of heroes, and more especially a matter that was then in the mouths of all men, to wit, the quarrel between Ulysses and Achilles, and the fierce words that they heaped on one another as they sat together at a banquet. But Agamemnon was glad when he heard his chieftains quarreling with one another, for Apollo had foretold him this at Pytho, when he had crossed the stone floor to consult the oracle. Here was the beginning of the evil that by the will of Jove fell down upon Danaans and Trojans. Thus sang the bard, but Ulysses drew his purple mantle over his head and covered his face, for he was ashamed to let the Phaeacians see that he was weeping. When the bard left off singing, he wiped the tears from his eyes, uncovered his face, and taking his cup, made a drink offering to the gods. But when the Phaeacians pressed Demodocus to sing further, for they delighted in his lays, then Ulysses again drew his mantle over his head and wept bitterly. No one noticed his distress except Elsino, who was sitting near him and heard the heavy sighs that he was heaving. So he at once said, "Aldermen, the town councilors of the Phaeacians, we have had enough now, both of the feast and of the minstrelsy. That is its due accompaniment. Let us proceed, therefore, to the athletic sports, so that our guest on his return home may be able to tell his friends of how much we surpass all other nations as boxers, wrestlers, jumpers, and runners. With these words he led the way, and the others followed after him. A servant hung Demodocus's lyre on its peg for him, led him out of the cloister, and sent him on the same way as that along which all of the chief men of the Thesians were going to see the sports. A crowd of several thousands of people followed them, and there were many excellent competitors for all the prizes. Acronios, Ochialis, Elatrius, Nautius, Primnius, Ankylaus, Eretmus, Pontius, Prorius, Thun, Anabisnius, and Amphilaus, son of Polinius, son of Tecton. That's a lot of names. There was also Euryalus, son of Nabalos, who was like Mars himself, and was the best-looking man among the Thesians, except Laodamas. 3 sons of Alcino, Laodamas, Helios, and Clintonius competed also. The foot race came first. The course was set out for them from the starting post, and they raised a dust upon the plain as they all flew forward at the same moment. Clintonius came in first by a long way. He left everyone else behind him by the length of the furrow that a couple of mules can plow in the fallow field. Then they turned to the painful art of wrestling, and here Euryalus proved to be the best man. Amphialus excelled all the others in jumping, while at throwing the disc, there was no one who could approach Elatrius. Alcino's son Laodamas was the best boxer, and who presently said, when they had all been diverted with the games, "Let us ask the stranger whether he excels in any of these sports. He seems very powerfully built. His thighs, calves, hands, and neck are of prodigious strength, nor is he at all old, but he has suffered much lately, and there is nothing like the sea for making havoc with a man, no matter how strong he is." "Hello there, Aiden. I'm doing all right. How are you doing?" "You are quite right, Laodamas," replied Euryalus. "Go up to your guest and speak to him about it yourself." When Laodamas heard this, he made his way into the middle of the crowd and said to Ulysses, "I hope, sir, that you will enter yourself or some one or other of our competitions if you are skilled in any of them. And you must have gone in for many a one before now. There is nothing that does anyone so much credit all his life long as showing himself a proper man with his hands and feet. Have a try, therefore, at something, and banish all sorrow from your mind. Your return home will not be long delayed, for the ship is already drawn into the water, and the crew is found." Ulysses answered, "Laodamas, why do you taunt me in this way? My mind is set rather on cares than contests. I have been through infinite trouble, and am come along you now as a suppliant, praying your king and people to further me on my return home." Then Euryalus reviled him outright and said, "I gather then that you are unskilled in any of the many sports that men generally delight in. I suppose you are one of those grasping traders that go about in ships as trade captains or merchants, and who think of nothing but of their outward freights and homeward cargoes. There does not seem to be much of an athlete about you." "For shame, sir," answered Ulysses fiercely. "You are an insolent fellow. So true is it, the gods do not grace all men alike in speech, person, and understanding. One man may be of weak presence, but heaven has adorned this with such a good conversation that he charms everyone who sees him. His honeyed moderation carries his hearers with him, so that he is leader in all assemblies of his fellows, and wherever he goes he is looked up to. Another may be as handsome as a god, but his good looks are not crowned with discretion. This is your case. No god could make a finer looking fellow than you are, but you are a fool. Your ill-judged remarks have made me exceedingly angry, and you are quite mistaken, for I excel in a great many athletic exercises. Indeed, so long as I had youth and strength, I was among the first athletes of the age. Now, however, I am worn out by labor and sorrow, for I have gone through much both in the field of battle and by the waves of the weary sea. Still, in spite of all this, I will compete, for your taunts have stung me to the quick. So he hurried up, without even taking his cloak off, and seized a disc, larger, more massive, and much heavier than those used by the Phaeacians when disc-throwing among themselves. Then, swinging it back, he threw it from his brawny hand, and it made a humming sound in the air as he did so. The Phaeacians quailed beneath the rushing of his flight as it sped gracefully from his hand and flew beyond any mark that had been made. Minerva, in the form of a man, came and marked the place where it had fallen. "A blind man, sir," said she, "could easily tell your mark by groping for it. It is so far ahead of any other. You may make your mind easy about this contest, for no Phaeacian can come near to such a throw as yours." Ulysses was glad when he had found a friend among the lookers-on, so he began to speak more pleasantly. "Young men," said he, "come up to that throw if you can, and I will throw another disc as heavy or even heavier. If anyone wants to have a bout with me, let him come on, for I am exceedingly angry. I will box, wrestle, or run. I do not care what it is with any man of you all, except Laodamas, but not with him, because I am his guest, and one cannot compete with one's own personal friend. At least, I do not think it a prudent or sensible thing for a guest to challenge his host's family at any game, especially when he is in a foreign country. He will cut the ground from under his own feet if he does, but I make no exception as regards of anyone else, for I want to have the matter out and know which is the best man. I am a very good hand at every kind of athletic sport known among mankind. I am an excellent archer. In battle, I am always the first to bring a man down with my arrow, no matter how many more are taking aim at him alongside me. Philoctetes was the only man who could shoot better than I could when we Achaeans were before Troy and in practice. I far excel everyone else in the whole world, of those who still eat bread upon the face of the earth. But I shouldn't not like to shoot against the mighty dead, such as Hercules, or Eurytrius, the Oechalian, men who could shoot against the gods themselves. This, in fact, was how Eurytus came prematurely by his end, for Apollo was angry with him and killed him because he challenged him as an archer. I can throw a dart farther than anyone else can shoot an arrow. Running is the only point in respect of which I am afraid some of the Phaeacians may beat me, for I had been brought down very low at the sea. My provisions ran short, and therefore I am still weak. They all held their peace, except King Elsinore, who began, "Sir, we have had much pleasure in hearing all that which you have told us, from which I understand you are willing to show your prowess. As having been displeased with some insolent remarks that have been made to you by one of our athletes, and which could never have been uttered by anyone who knows how to talk with propriety, I hope you will apprehend my meaning and will explain to any one of your chief men who may be dining with yourself and your family when you get home, that we have a hereditary aptitude for accomplishments of all kinds. We are not particularly remarkable for our boxing, nor yet as wrestlers, but we are singularly fleet of foot and are excellent sailors. We are extremely fond of good dinners, music, and dancing. We also like frequent changes of linen, warm baths, and good beds. So now, please, some of you who are the best dancers set about dancing, that our guest on his return home may be able to tell his friends how much we surpass all others nations as sailors, runners, dancers, and minstrels. Demodocus has left his lyre at my house, so run some one or other of you and fetch it for him." I'm gonna say though, honestly real. That'd be a fun country. I don't know, like we like running, we like sailing, we like to change clothes and take showers and hot baths, and I'm down with that. We love music. Yeah, that's a good nation right there. On this, a servant hurried off to bring the lyre from the king's house, and the 9 men who had been chosen as stewards stood forward. It was their business to manage everything connected with the sports, so they made the ground smooth and marked a wide space for the dancers. Presently, the servant came back with Demodocus's lyre, and he took his place in the midst of them, whereon the best young dancers in the town began to foot and trip it so nimbly that Ulysses was delighted with the merry twinkling of their feet. Meanwhile, the bard began to sing the loves of Mars and Venus, and how they first began their intrigue in the house of Vulcan. Mars made Venus many presents, and defiled King Vulcan's marriage bed, so the sun, who saw what they were about, told Vulcan. Vulcan was very angry when he heard such dreadful news, so he went to his smithy brooding mischief, got to his great anvil to its place, and began to forge some chains which none could either unloose or break, so that they might stay there in that place. When he had finished his snare, he went into his bedroom and festooned the bedposts all over with chains like cobwebs. He also let many hang down from the great beam of the ceiling. Not even a god could see them, so fine and subtle were they. As soon as he had spread the chains all over the bed, he made as though he were setting out for the fair state of Lemnos, which of all places in the world he was the one he was most fond of. Hi, Jam Jam. But Mars kept no blind lookout, and as soon as he saw him hurried off to his house, burning with love for Venus. Now Venus was just come in from a visit to her father Jove, and was about sitting down when Mars came inside the house, and he took her hand and said, "Let us go to the couch of Vulcan. He is not at home, but has gone off to Lemnos among the Sintians, whose speech is barbarous. She was nothing loth, so they went to the couch to take their rest, whereon they were caught in the toils which cunning Vulcan had spread for them, and could neither get up nor stir hand or foot, but found too late that they were in a trap. Then Vulcan came up to them, for he had turned back before reaching Lemnos, when a scout of the sun told him what was going on. He was in a furious passion, and stood in the vestibule, making a dreadful noise as he shouted to all the gods. "Father Jove," he cried, "and all you other blessed gods who live forever, come here and see the ridiculous and disgraceful sight that I will show you. Jove's daughter Venus is always dishonoring me because I am lame. She is in love with Mars, who is handsome and clean built, whereas I am a cripple. But my parents are to blame for that, not I. They ought never to have begotten me. Come and see the pair together asleep on my bed. It makes me furious to look at them. They are fond, very fond of one another, but I do not think they will lie there longer than they can help, nor do I think that they will sleep much. There, however, they shall stay till her father has repaid me the sum I gave him for his baggage of a daughter, who is fair, but not honest." Damn, he just called her baggage. That's kind of messed up. On this, the gods gathered to the house of Vulcan. Earth encircling Neptune came, and Mercury the bringer of luck, and King Apollo, but the goddesses stayed at home, all of them for shame. Then the givers of all good things stood in the doorway, and the blessed gods roared with inextinguishable laughter, for they saw how cunning Vulcan had been, whereon one would turn to his neighbor, saying, "Ill deeds do not prosper, and the weak confound the strong. See how limping Vulcan, lame as he is, has caught Mars, who is the fleetest god in heaven, and now Mars will be cast in heavy damages." Thus did they converse, but King Apollo said to Mercury, "Messenger Mercury, giver of good things, would you not care how strong the chains were, would you, if you could sleep with Venus?" "King Apollo," answered Mercury, "I only wish I might get the chance, though there were 3 times as many chains, and you might look on, all of you gods and goddesses, but I would sleep with her if I could." The immortal gods burst out laughing as they heard him, but Neptune took it all seriously, and kept on imploring to Vulcan to set Mars free again. "Hi, Cassandra. Long time no see. How have you been? Any fun stuff? Any news?" It's lovely to see you too. You made cookies? That's wonderful, Jam Jam. "Let him go," he cried. "I will undertake, as you require, that he shall pay you all the damages that are held reasonable among the immortal gods." I do want one. Usual life stuff? Gotcha. As for me, life of course has had many ups and downs, but I'm just trying to take it one bit at a time. Here to enjoy spending time together. Oh boy, what did you type there? You're getting sleepy? That's very fair, Zero. Feel free to rest and relax for as long as you need. that he shall pay you all the damages that are held reasonable among the immortal gods. Do not, replied Vulcan, ask me to do this. A bad man's bond is bad security. What remedy could I enforce against you if Mars should go away and leave his debts behind him along with his chains? Vulcan, said Neptune, if Mars goes away without paying his damages, I will pay you myself. So Vulcan answered, in this case, I cannot and must not refuse you. Thereon he loosened the bonds that bound them, and as soon as they were free they scampered off, Mars to Thrace, and laughter-loving Venus to Cyprus and to Paphos, where is her grove and her altar fragrant with burnt offerings. Here the Graces bathed her, and anointed her with oil of ambrosia, such as the immortal gods make use of, and they clothed her in raiment of the most enchanting beauty. Thus sang the bard, and both Ulysses and seafaring Phaeacians were charmed as they heard him. Then Alcino turned Laodamas and Helios to dance alone, for there were no one to compete with them. So they took a red ball which Polybus had made for them, and one of them bent himself backwards and threw it up towards the clouds, while the other jumped from off the ground and caught it with ease before it came down again. When they had done throwing the ball straight up into the air, they began to dance, and at the same time kept on throwing it backwards and forwards to one another, all while the young men in the ring applauded and made a great stamping with their feet. Then Ulysses said, King Alcino, you said your people were the nimblest dancers in the world, and indeed, they have proved themselves to be so. I was astonished as I saw them. The king was delighted at this, and exclaimed to the Phaeacians, Aldermen and town councilors, our guest seems to be a person of singular judgment. Hi, Jam Jam. Let us give him such proof of our hospitality as he may reasonably expect. There are 12 chief men among you, and counting myself, there are 13. Contribute each of you a clean cloak, a shirt, and a talent of fine gold. Let us give him all this in a lump down at once, so that when he gets his supper, he may do so with a light heart. As for Euryalus, he will have to make a formal apology, and a present too, for he has been rude. Thus did he speak, and the others, all of them, applauded his saying, and sent their servants to fetch the presents. Then Euryalus said, King Alcino, I will give the stranger all the satisfaction you require. He shall have my sword, which is of bronze, all but the hilt, which is of silver. I will also give him the scabbard of a newly sawn ivory into which it fits. It will be worth a great deal to him. As he spoke, he placed the sword in the hands of Ulysses and said, Good luck to you, father stranger. If anything has been said amiss, may the winds blow it away with them, and may heaven grant you a safe return. For I understand you have been long away from home, and have gone through much hardship. To which Ulysses answered, Good luck to you too, my friend, and may the gods grant you every happiness. I hope you will not miss the sword you have given me along with your apology. With these words, he girded the sword about his shoulders, and towards sundown, the presents began to make their appearance, as the servants of the donors kept bringing them to the house of King Alcino. Here his sons received them, and placed them under their mother's charge. Then Elsinore led the way to the house and bade his guests take their seats. "Wife," said he, turning to Queen Arete, or is it Arete? "Go fetch the best chest we have and put a clean cloak and shirt in it. Also, set a copper on the fire and heat some water. Our guest will take a warm bath. See also to the careful packing of the presents that the noble Phaeacians have made him. He will thus better enjoy both his supper and the singing that will follow. I shall myself give him this golden goblet, which is of exquisite workmanship, that he may be reminded of me for the rest of his life whenever he makes a drink offering to Jove or to any of the gods." Then Arete told her maids to set a large tripod upon the fire as fast as they could, whereon they set a tripod full of bath water onto the clear fire. They threw on sticks to make it blaze, and the water became hot as the flame played about the belly of the tripod. Meanwhile, Arete, it might be Arete, I'm not sure. I'm thinking of like Crete. Meanwhile, Arete brought a magnificent chest from her own room, and inside it she packed all of the beautiful presents of gold and raiment which the Phaeacians had brought. Lastly, she added a cloak and a good shirt from Elsinore, and said to Ulysses, "See to the lid yourself, and have the whole bound round at once, for fear any one should rob you by the way you are asleep in your ship." When Ulysses heard this, he put the lid on the chest and made it fast with a bond that Circe had taught him. He had done so before an upper servant told him to come to the bath and wash himself. He was very glad of a warm bath, for he had had no one to wait upon him ever since he had left the house of Calypso, who, as long as he remained with her, had taken good care of him, as though he had been a god. When the servants had done washing and anointing him with oil, and had given him a clean cloak and shirt, he left the bathroom and joined the guests who were sitting over their wine. Lovely Nausicaa stood by one of the bearing posts, supporting the roof of the cloister, and admired him as she saw him pass. "Farewell, stranger," said she. "Do not forget me when you are safe at home again, for it is to me first that you owe ransom for having saved your life." And Ulysses said, "Nausicaa, daughter of great Alcinous, may Jove, the mighty husband of Juno, grant that I may reach my house. So shall I bless you as my guardian angel all my days, for it was you who saved me." When he had said this, he seated himself beside Alcinous. Supper was then served, and the wine was mixed for drinking. A servant led in the favorite bard Demodocus, and set him in the midst of the company, near one of the bearing posts supporting the cloister, that he might lean against it. Then Ulysses cut off a piece of roast pork with plenty of fat, where there was an abundance left on the joint, and said to the servant, "Take this piece of pork over to Demodocus and tell him to eat it. For all the pain his lays may cause me, I will salute him none the less. Bards are honored and respected throughout the world, for the muse teaches them their songs and loves them." The servants carried the pork in his fingers over to Demodocus, who took it and was very much pleased. They then laid their hands on the good things that were before them, and as soon as they had had to eat and drink, Ulysses said to Demodocus, "Demodocus, there is no one in the world whom I admire more than I do you. You must have studied under the Muse, Jove's daughter, and under Apollo. So accurately do you sing the return of the Achaeans with all their sufferings and adventures. If you were not there yourself, you must have heard it all from someone who was. Now, however, change your song and tell us of the wooden horse which Epeus made with the assistance of Minerva, and which Ulysses got by stratagem into the fort of Troy after freighting it with the men who afterwards sacked the city. If you will sing this tale aright, I will tell all the world how magnificently heaven has endowed you. The bard, inspired of heaven, took up the story at the point where some of the Argives set fire to their tents and sailed away while others, hidden within the horse, were waiting with Ulysses in the Trojan place of assembly. For the Trojans themselves had drawn the horse into their fortress, and it stood there while they sat in council around it, and were in three minds as to what they should do. Some were for breaking it up then and there, others would have dragged it to the top of the rocks on which the fortress stood, and then thrown down the precipice, while yet others were for letting it remain as an offering and propitiation for the gods. And this was how they settled it in the end, for the city was doomed when it took in that horse, within which were all the bravest of the Argives waiting to bring death and destruction to the Trojans. Anon he sang how the sons of the Achaeans issued from the horse and sacked the town, breaking out of their ambuscade. He sang how they overran the city hither and thither and ravaged it, and how Ulysses went raging like Mars along the Menelaus to the house of Deiphobus. It was there that the fight raged most furiously. Nevertheless, by Minerva's help, he was victorious. All this he was told, but Ulysses was overcome as he heard him, and his cheeks were wet with tears. He wept as a woman weeps when she throws herself on the body of her husband who has fallen before his own city and people, fighting bravely in defense of his home and children. She screams aloud and flings her arms about him as he lies gasping for breath and dying, but her enemies beat her from behind about their back and shoulders and carry her off into slavery, to a life of labor and sorrow, and the beauty fades from her cheeks. Even so piteously did Ulysses weep, but none of those present perceived his tears, except Alcinous, who was sitting near him and could hear the sobs and sighs that he was heaving. The king therefore at once rose and said, "Aldermen, and the town councillors of the Phaeacians, let Demodocus cease his song, for there are those present who do not seem to like it. From the moment that we had done supper and Demodocus began to sing, our guest has been all the time groaning and lamenting. He is evidently in great trouble, so let the bard leave off, that we may all enjoy ourselves, hosts and guests alike. This will be much more as it should be, for all these festivities, with the escort and the presents that we are making with so much goodwill, are wholly in his honor, and anyone with even a moderate amount of right feeling knows that he ought to treat a guest and a suppliant as though he were his own brother. Therefore, sir, do you on your part affect no more concealment nor reserve in the matter about which I shall ask you. It will be more polite in you to give me a plain answer. Tell me the name by which your father and mother over yonder used to call you, and by which you were known among your neighbors and fellow citizens." There is no one, neither rich nor poor, who is absolutely without any name whatever, for peoples' fathers and mothers give them names as soon as they are born. Tell me also your country, nation, and city, that our ships may shape their purpose accordingly and take you there. For the Phaeacians have no pilots, their vessels have no rudders, as those of other nations have, but the ships themselves understand what it is that we are thinking about and want. They know all the cities and countries in the whole world, and can traverse the sea just as well, even when it is covered with mist and cloud, so that there is no danger of being wrecked or coming to any harm. Still, I do remember hearing my father say that Neptune was angry with us for being too easygoing in the matter of giving people escorts. He said that one of these days he should wreck a ship of ours as it was returning from having escorted someone, and bury our city under a high mountain. This is what my father used to say, but whether the god will carry out his threat or no is a matter which he will decide for himself. Now tell me, and tell me true. Where have you been wandering, and in what countries have you traveled? Tell us of the peoples themselves, and of their cities, who were hostile, savage, and uncivilized, and who, on the other hand, hospitable and humane. Tell us also why you are made so unhappy on hearing about the return of the Argive Danans from Troy. The gods arranged all this, and sent them their misfortunes in order that future generations might have something to sing about. Did you lose some brave kinsman of your wives when you were before Troy? A son-in-law or father-in-law? Which are the nearest relations a man has outside his own flesh and blood? Or was it some brave and kindly-natured comrade? For a good friend is as dear to a man as his own brother. And that there is the end of Book 8. And also, where I will go ahead and end it for tonight. That was pretty long, but I'm glad we gave it the time necessary. But everyone, I will go ahead and say, make sure you all have a wonderful night. Rest well, sleep easy, and I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you, everyone. Take care, guys, and see you next time I stream.